Welcome everyone back to Read the Book First. Today, Jen has returned to help us talk about the first 4 episodes of Bridgerton season 3. Originally, we were thinking maybe waiting till the end of the season, but after watching it, I was like, we gotta talk about
We have
it.
so much to unpack.
So much. It's been out 9 days, right?
Yeah.
And I've watched it 3 times through.
I think like 3 times, except the carriage scene, which probably has been watched more than that. So,
Which, yeah, of course.
obviously.
Yeah, so I guess we could just like go episode through episode
Yeah.
ish, and then we can talk about our thoughts in general, I guess. The first episode is really full.
So much happens. I feel like
Yeah.
in each episode, but it very like they're trying to lay so much groundwork in the first episode for this whole season that it's just so much.
In my head, I was like, oh, this has to be over an hour. And I was just looking a second ago. I'm like, no, this one's 3 minutes longer than the rest of them. That's it.
Yeah.
Like they're all an hour, which is like, I feel like this one, it has so much, but it makes sense. It's the first episode, like, and it's deviating from the same new person comes to town, new character who's gonna fall, like, like, so they have to like change kind of like how the season's gonna be, which I think is good that they did that. The reception of it is a mixed bag from what I've seen online, at least. It's Lady Whistledown talking, like the taunt has returned, everyone is in their fancy ass dresses, and I'm like, yes, I love this, like candy, like dress colors everywhere. I love it.
I also just loved how uniform the Featheringtons looked.
Yes.
Like in the previous seasons, and I know Penelope like starts the season in the kind of dresses she already had, but they like were themed the same, but they were not cohesive, and it always like I hated it a little bit. And now it's like they got out of the carriage in that gorgeous green, and I was like, yes, please. I loved it.
Yeah, it's like this season, Portia Featherington is like, we have our shit together. We gotta make sure everyone knows we have our shit together.
Yes.
And like, and you can tell, and I love that for them. The way
They're
it came about,
great.
not wonderful, but love that for them. I loved at the beginning how everyone's like obviously reading Lady Whistledown, and Penelope is just like smugly looking at everyone and like just not hiding her feelings. Like if anyone saw her, they'd be like, oh, you know something.
Yeah.
She's like,
she's just vibing. She's like, somebody knows my secret. Other people will know about. Like, I feel like she's mentally prepared herself a small bit for the fact that somebody else may know at some point besides Eloise.
Yeah, I think she's like just trying to enjoy as much as she can before. I think, definitely got that vibe. I was not expecting that this season would also have Francesca's story, so that totally surprised me.
And it's Francesca's first story because, first part of her story, because I remember messaging you and being like, wasn't she married already to a John? And then we meet John, and I love him. Anyway, we'll get to him. He comes
we'll
up.
Get to John.
But I was also surprised because we are kind of having like a dual timeline story with Francesca. And I thought that was kind of interesting. And with Benedict a little bit. Eventually we'll get to that, also. But I like that they're doing it. It was confusing having come from reading the book and being like, like in my notes, I was like, isn't she already married at this point? And technically in the book she was, but their book is set 8 years further ahead.
Yeah. And I think it's smart that they're doing this now, especially since Francesca's casting got switched, because the original Francesca had conflict scheduling stuff, and so she couldn't commit to it. I don't know if that's what everyone's saying online. Sometimes people like they say that, oh, the scheduling conflict, they just didn't rehire them. Like we don't know for sure. That's a common thing. But I will say, this Francesca, this actress, one, fantastic.
Incredible.
Two, she like looks enough like the rest of the Bridgertons and like Daphne, because Daphne looks different than all of them, right? That's always been like a weird thing. But she like bridges the gap between the rest of the Bridgertons and Daphne. So I think it's smart. And I'm like, not that the other Francesca was bad because she was good, but also Francesca's barely in the first 2 seasons because she's a child, you know?
I also love that the first time we're meeting the new Francesca, it's her playing the Death March on piano. I was like, oh, I love her already. She's incredible. Amazing.
I love her.
I saw something online. They were talking about it's, you know, the Featheringtons season. And they talked about there are so many references to birds in the entire Bridgerton story, visually and verbally. So like the first episode, Colin's getting off the boat and sees you see the parrot, the macaw in the cage. When he is arriving at the house, Hyacinth said, what are they all squawking about the women down the street that we're seeing Colin? The equivalent of plumage to attract a mate, the same as the Featheringtons. Did the name inspire that theme? Who knows? But they have, you know, feathers, cages, plumage, pecking order. Like they have all of these things. And I was like, that makes so much sense. And I kind of actually love it.
As a show as a whole, like they always talk about like the birds and the bees, and those are always been themes. But it's fun to think about it. The Bridgertons are the bees because of all the trauma of their dad dying due to a bee sting. And then the Featheringtons are the birds because Featherington and then all the things you just said. So like I noticed that too. And I was like, that's fun. That's a really good play on words that thematically makes sense. Like I really like that. But yes, Colin is back in town and he has had his study abroad kid glow up.
Can we call it that though? Because he did come back like every stereotypical study abroad kid.
He's a
when I was in Paris, when but if you don't shut up.
Yep. Okay, so people have had there's a big mixed bag about the first 2 episodes, Colin. The second 2 episodes, people are like, okay, that's fine, right? It's like more into it. The first 2 episodes, especially this beginning here, where he like immediately starts flirting with all these people, like which is so unlike Colin from the first 2 seasons. But I think it makes sense because if you think about it, who are his father figures? Anthony, Mr. Rake Bridgerton, who is just hoeing around as he should because he's beautiful. And literally at the end of the last season, Anthony's like, you should go out and explore the world. Like he has been encouraged to go out and like become worldly in multiple ways, you know? And so he comes back and like Colin is classic middle child in the series, like he is in the book, like we talked about. And and instead of having theater kid energy here, he has study abroad kid energy. Yeah. Right. Which is like, there's a Venn diagram of behaviors there. Right.
They overlap occasionally. It's fine.
Yeah. So like, even though his flirting is like a bit cringy, the first couple episodes, I think it makes sense.
I don't disagree with that. I think also like him, I'm trying to think of like how to phrase it. He comes across as like condescending, but not intentionally. Like he genuinely, he's just like trying to share this knowledge and share this experience, but it is coming from such a place of privilege that he is being condescending the whole time. And that's when he's like, oh, if I told you about my adventures, I'd have to marry you. Shut up. If you don't shut your mouth right now. I swear to God. It was frustrating. It definitely in the first 2 episodes because I don't think he still had awkward duckling energy. That's what it is. Like he was still this awkward duckling trying to fill this void that he was feeling. Yeah. And in doing that, he comes across as just cringy and weird and not Anthony, but like trying to be.
Right. Whereas Anthony and Benedict both are like charismatic and suave in the flirty way, where Colin's always been charismatic in like boy next door, hey, I'm a sweetheart golden retriever way. And then suddenly he's trying not to be. But like I like that it's a struggle. Like it is hard to watch a bit. And I'm just like, ugh. But also I'm like, okay, this I can deal with it. I love the Bridgerton bros and the carriage scene where Colin's like changing shirts and Benedict's like, what did you get so sturdy?
And then what did he say? He said, I traveled the world and like feel more proportioned or something. or found proportions, and then Gregory being like, I want proportions, and they're all just giggling to themselves. And I was like, that's such older sibling energy.
I really enjoyed that. Then we get to the introducing of Francesca and the other new to the town gals, and the queen is just bored out of her mind.
She was killing me. Like, I want to know how much fun she had filming that scene and having to be like, ugh, every single time someone walked in the room, because she was just bored to tears is what she was portraying. Yes. And I love that we find out that it's really just like, she's like, you guys ruined my fun. I wanted to have a cute little diamond of the season, and you ruined it. Like, she's so butthurt about it. And I also loved that they had the deaf daughter.
Yeah,
being represented.
Yeah, the British Sign Language. It was really cute. I like that. Like, you know, like, I mean, obviously it'd always be better if like the main character, right, with a, you know, more, but like it's still cool to see how they like are trying to make it inclusive. Could it be better? Absolutely. But I think it's for a Netflix show that is like, this is the most popular Netflix show besides like Stranger Things, right? So like I think it's good.
I am wondering, so they have a new showrunner this year.
Yes.
So I didn't know that going in, and it like, since I watched the first 2 seasons before I started watching the third one, it was like a noticeable shift. It was not bad, but it's like a noticeable shift in costumes, in like lighting, in like a couple of the different like scenes that they're doing. And I'm wondering if that's also one. Not that the other showrunner was not willing to do those things, but just like maybe it wasn't prioritized in the same way.
Yeah. And then the first episode, the biggest changes besides like the plot stuff, because they do have to change stuff because we know all the characters, like there's barely new characters, right? Is like the costuming and the lighting, like it's just happier. But also like that kind of makes sense if you think about it, because we've had like 2 seasons with really dark bits, right? But those folks are either not there in Daphne's case, but like Anthony has like moved past that darkness, and so like, and Colin's darkness is not as deep as the other ones, you know what I mean? So like if they were to make it that same, like visibly that same tone, it would feel odd. I also saw TikTok talking about this. I forgot, I should have written down the name, but they also mentioned how another reason why the first half of the season so far that seems different besides the showrunner is that there's no flashbacks so far, right? And the first 2 seasons, flashbacks play a huge part, and they're, because of flashbacks, they're visually darker because it's a memory, right? So like I'm interested, I'm curious to see if they have any in the second half. I don't think that they would.
I don't think they will, because like when they're talking about, because Colin brings up like how they met, but he talks about it. We don't see it. It's where I do like that in the book you get it from Penelope's perspective, so we're getting it from his in the show. Like he's talking about somebody's bonnet just smacked me in the face, and then she's giggling. She's like, I apologize, and he's like, yeah, it was funny. It's fine. Like even then he's still like, yeah, it's a funny memory of how we met.
Now that would have been a good opportunity, but I am interested how the showrunner, because she apparently, the showrunner was like the right hand person to the original one. So like it's not like it's a whole new person, because if they brought a whole new person in, it would have been like, ugh. So at least it was like within the family.
I am also like, just speaking of the Featheringtons, I'm obsessed with the fact that Prudence married a man who is more obsessed with her than she is with him.
I love that.
I think it's the only way marriage is going to work for her, and I love that for her.
The Featheringtons, the sisters, who are like stereotypically like set up to be the ugly, mean stepsisters, even though they're full sisters. Like that's like the stereotype they have had the first 2 seasons. It got a little bit less last season with trying to marry her cousin of it all, and they had to make it funny because otherwise it's just like creepy, you know what I mean? So I like,
in the book, I don't remember if you clarified this for me already. In the book, is he actually an old man, and then in the show they made him younger?
He's not there.
He's just, he doesn't exist at all.
Yeah, the dad's dead from the first book of the Featheringtons. It's not there. And similar to the show, they use Aunt Petunia to cover how they got money. So in the show, Portia has, from season 2, we know that Portia has gotten all the money from the cousin and like,
yes.
Yeah, so they're covering up that like money with the death of their random Aunt Petunia. In the books, Aunt Petunia is how Penelope gives her Lady Whistledown money to her family so that they don't go into ruin. So like I do like that they keep that, and it does keep Portia still like the tension still there.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I think I'm interested to see how it'll play out the rest of the season, because I think it's so important in the books that Penelope uses her money for her family. You know what I mean?
I put that in my notes where I was like, oh, I like that they kept Penelope giving the money to her family. And then I said, oh, JK, it's cousin Jack's money.
Yeah.
Because I thought they were keeping it until she said, Portia said something.
Yeah. So I'm interested in how that works out, because also I don't think it's in this first episode. Do we get the lawyer in the first episode?
No, I think he's the second.
Oh, we do.
He might be at the end.
Yeah, he's later in the episode, but that's fine. So like the lawyer comes up twice to two different plot lines or side plots. But with the Featheringtons, he's like, hey, this letter is very sketchy and very like timely. So I'll be watching to make sure that y'all or your daughters actually have children. And if they don't, I'm coming for you. And so like I love that, to like keep the other sisters part of the like, because I want the sisters to be there because they're hilarious and the actresses are wonderful.
So incredible.
But like I think this is, you know, this is part of the reason why I think this season also feels a little bit different, is that there's so many side plots.
Yes.
There's too many side plots for only for 8 episodes. Like 4 episodes so far. You know what I mean? And I think that's why people are like, everything's a little bit stretched thin. And I think that's why people are having a difficult time with this season. You know?
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. Yeah, so we'll see how that plays out in that like tension. The queen does not choose a diamond because she's like, y'all messed up the mamas. Yeah, the moms are freaking out. The queen doesn't even go to the garden party that someone threw for her. And this is where we get all that creepy, that cringy Colin flirting.
It was so just like, it felt out of character. And like looking back, it is because he was trying to like channel his inner Antony, channel his inner Benedict. And it wasn't working because like you said, he doesn't, he still comes across as like this charming man, but in a different way. So when he's trying to be charming in their way, it comes across as so disingenuous and just icky.
Yeah. But I do like the part where he's like, I'm surprised why all of your dance cards aren't filled out, but I won't be battling out with everyone. Like, even with his weird flirting, he's so passive about it. He's like, I'm not going to be active in this. I'm just going to mention it. And I'm like, okay, so like he's being respectful, but also creepy. And it's a weird combo.
He's literally, it's like the attention high of like knowing that these women find him charming and knowing that these women like want him, but he doesn't want any of them.
Yep. I will say Colin is giving, I can say this because I am a Leo, Colin is giving Leo vibes. Because I don't know that much about astrology. I just know that Leo's like low, I feel like he's being a 10 out of attention, but
as a fellow Leo,
okay,
I say he's a July Leo.
Yes, he's a July Leo. Yes.
People look at me and ask me if I'm a July Leo and seem surprised when I say August, and I don't know how to feel about that.
No, you're not a July Leo. No. Yeah.
I know I know I have a little hyperactivity sometimes, but like I would literally rather Penelope introducing herself to the men and being like, lovely weather we're having. That's me.
Oh my God.
What do you mean?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, going book to show. Obviously, they were changing things. I am not crazy that like the charm lessons were not specific in the book, right? Like they weren't.
Yeah, that's a plot device for this.
Okay, because I was sitting there and I was like, I just read this book. I'm not crazy that this didn't happen, right? But sometimes, you know, ADHD brain, gaslight myself.
Stuff blends, you know.
Yeah. I think this is what we would have gotten of like Daphne and Simon had Simon still been in the show. I loved the Kate and Anthony moments.
Yes.
obsessed because I felt like, especially like they got married and that was just kind of it. And then they were married. And I loved that we got some like loved up moments from them. And they were just like cute and coupley. And she's like, I'm the new like Viscountess. I want to be able to do my job. And I was like, this is so cute. I love them.
Yes.
And
we love Cantony.
I felt robbed at the end of season 2. So I was like very, very happy to have a few of these scenes. It just, I love them.
And like, you know, like Antony, of all of the siblings, Antony needs to be around the most because he is literally in charge of the household. You know what I mean? So like, it's good that they like, they didn't just be like, oh, and they're there, kind of like, you know, the other siblings. It's more like, here's what they're up to, and here's also a good reason of why they're not going to be around till maybe the end or another episode. You know, it makes sense, and I thought it was well done. I loved them.
I agree.
Yeah. Eloise is besties with Cressida.
I was gagged when I saw them walking together. I was like, excuse me? Because it wasn't even just like, okay, Eloise made a new friend in society. She picked Penelope's biggest bully and said, we'll be friends. I do also kind of dig that we are slowly getting like, each episode is a little bit more of a Cressida redemption.
Yes.
And I find that so interesting.
Yes.
Love it a little bit.
So like, I love what they're doing with Cressida and in relation to Eloise. But here's my issue with Eloise, and I've been thinking about this. Eloise is a bad friend. And like, because so Penelope is her bestie from forever, like pre this season, right? Forever. But Penelope is able to hide the whistle down of it all from Eloise because Eloise like has that like she's like most of the Bridgertons is a bit self-centered, right? Which is like not entirely their fault. That's how they're raised, to be self-centered. And she does not know anything about the issues Penelope has at home. She only knows that her mom and her sisters like fat shame her. And society fat shames her. Like, that's like the only issue of Penelope's Eloise aware of. And so when Eloise finds out that she's Lady Whistledown, she obviously the betrayal feeling, that is understandable.
Yeah, especially after what she wrote. Like,
exactly. So like Penelope's like not at fault, obviously, in this. But because I'm fine with her becoming friends with Cressida with this Cressida redemption arc. But before this, Cressida is only a bully. And Penelope should know this. And like, I don't know. I just feel like Eloise is a bad friend, but also I love in this season that you see how much Eloise cares for Penelope, even though she's not acting as she should and like trying to like bridge the gap.
Agreed.
You know, but like you see the actress does a fantastic job with like her emotions whenever she like locks eyes with Penelope. Like you see that Eloise misses her, and so like I like that tension, but I also just want everyone to recognize that Eloise is a bad friend. Or was.
Agree. Yeah.
That being said, do you ship Eloise and Cressida?
A little bit. Yeah. I wouldn't be disappointed by that. There's also, I don't know, somebody was talking something about, there'll be a throuple in one of the future seasons. And I was like, okay, if that's any season, it's going to be Benedict's, first of all.
Absolutely.
But I ship them, but I also love the idea of like Cressida just like that being her own recognition and just being like, oh, maybe I haven't found a man to marry because I don't actually like them. Like they're a means to an end, but I'm not actually attracted to any of them. But yeah, I absolutely 10 out of 10 love them together. I just shady on Eloise's part.
Definitely.
And now we've made it to the ball. The first ball of the season.
We find out that whoever of the Featherington has a male heir first gets to essentially become Lady Featherington. And so Penelope's like, I'm not going to be fucking stuck with my mom and my sisters forever. And her mom does a similar line like she does in the book, like, I can't wait to grow old with you. Like, I know we'll always be able to grow together. Penelope's like, love your mom, but no. you
the
know?
way you could see the panic filling her eyes as that line was said too, I was like, yeah, no, valid reaction, girly pop, run while you can.
Yep. And I love that this is the reason why she decides to pay and start her own makeover. I love that because so many times we have characters makeovers directly attached to a romantic interest. Like, yes, this is so that she can get married, not so she can fall in love. And there's a difference in this world of marrying and falling in love, right? And I love that she is the like force behind this makeover. And also it just shows the power of hair and dress and like dresses and color theory because also what I love so much about this season and what I love so much about Penelope and Nicola Coughlan in general is that she is a bigger girl the whole time and she is beautiful. Like her beauty is, she gets more beautiful because she gets good hair and clothes that fit her and shades of color that look good on her, right?
Yes.
Like I love that so much. I was so scared they were gonna like make her like become skinnier like she does in the book. And like, no. And there's no talk about her size at all in this season.
Yes. Which I'm like obsessed with.
It's so good. It's so good. And it's amazing.
It is. It's amazing.
Amazing. Yeah. And that dress, the dress that she has, beautiful.
Loved the dress. I will say the entrance didn't pack as much of a punch as I wanted it to. Like I liked the song choice, but I think it would have like impacted better if the song had been louder.
Yeah.
Honestly, like it was, I think it was distracted from by the fact that we were hearing all the people talking. I do love her brother-in-law turning around and being like, oh, they're not looking at us. Look how beautiful she looks. Like her brothers-in-law are so supportive. Just and two so himbos. Kind.
We love them.
Two himbos who are just like, I'm so scared of your mom, but I love your sister. Both of them. It's so funny. Actually, that's so funny. Prudence, her husband, loves her more than she loves him. Like he is obsessed. Philippa, they're equally obsessed with each other. And both are so funny when you see them together.
Yeah. I'm so happy for the Featheringtons, which is like, I would never have said that in season 1. Like you think about that, like
yes.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And that's what we call growth.
Definitely.
I did put in my notes, I said a blonde man in all caps when we first meet Lord Debling. But I'm going to be honest. Oh, and I that's actually funny. I didn't mean to say that, but I did write, I'm going to be honest. The blonde man is hotter than Colin so far. And I stand by that statement because we meet Lord Debling and he is very much like, oh, I'm here. Like I'm in the marriage mart looking for a wife this season. This is my spiel. Yeah. And like, he's just kind of like, I'm here because I have to be. Like, I need a wife to run my house. That's kind of it.
Yeah.
And he's kind to Penelope.
Yes. Yes.
He doesn't judge her. He doesn't read Whistledown. He doesn't care about like any of the drama that's gone on with her family. He's like, yeah, he's nice to her because he's nice to everyone. Like everyone we've seen him interact with, he is kind when he speaks to them, and she deserves somebody who is nice.
Yes. Absolutely. I love the ball because we see Penelope. This is where we get the awkward like conversation where like she's suddenly beautiful, which I'm like, y'all are dummies. She just had bad fashion because of her mom, you know, like not her fault, but like suddenly all these guys are like talking to her and she's just fumbling, and it's like the bit where it's like, I like to read a lot, but like my mom tells me not to, but like
not to read.
And I'm like, book talk is looking at you, Penelope, because that is all us.
The number of people I've seen like using that soundbite, I'm like, yeah, Penelope Featherington is all of us. It's fine. We accept our fate.
I love her and Doubling's interaction. Like you were like everything you just said, like it's so natural and like not, you know, terrifying. Also Penelope, and I think isn't it Penelope and Francesca have a cute little heart to heart here?
Yes, where Francesca finds her. I love Francesca and how autistically coded she is.
Yes.
I mean that in just like a very general sense where like she is fine talking about like statistical facts. She is fine talking about music is beautiful and I love playing music. And then they're like, what makes you tick? And she's like, what kind of question is that? I have to leave. Mm-hmm. And when she finds Penelope, she's very just like, they have this little heart to heart about feeling like the outsider in their family and feeling like they don't belong, and like how that feels uncomfortable. And Penelope's telling her not to be a wallflower, like don't let it suck you in, because once you're here, it's really hard to get out. And then Francesca repeats that back to her as she goes to the dance floor, and I just really loved that.
And I think it's so good too because, you know, this is Penelope's season of the show, and the tagline is like, even a wallflower can bloom or grow or something like that. And it's like, okay, but also Francesca is also a wallflower, but the reason why they're wallflowers is different. Francesca is naturally like this because of how her brain works, and her family's, none of them is like that. Whereas Penelope has been ostracized by her family and bullied by society to become this. If no one had ever said her mean things to her or heard those mean things at home when she growing up, she would be charismatic, already married to the hottest guy there the first year, right?
Absolutely.
So like I really like that. Like I really love that the similarities between the two, but also the different. Like I thought it was good. It's just so good.
Yes, they're very paralleled.
Yeah,
I love that. Yeah.
Cressida ruins Penelope's dress, which I'm like,
we had such high hopes for you, and then you go back to your little middle school mean girl stuff. What are you doing?
Yeah. And Penelope runs out, and Colin chases after her for the first time of the season. We should have a Colin chases Penelope count because it's gonna, I bet. They have like an argument, and he's like, and then to be fair, Colin did help rescue the Featheringtons at the end of the season.
Yes.
Last season. So like he does have some like, hey, why are you ghosting me? Like I helped your family. I wrote to you. You didn't write back. You usually write me back.
He's so needy this entire season when it comes to Penelope. And I find that hilarious.
Yes. And I'm like, this is good. This is the good bits. She confronts him here about not wanting to court her, or saying that, right?
Yes.
Like that, overhearing him say that.
And when he first comes out, he says, "It pains me to see you upset." And she looks him dead in the eye and said, "Then perhaps you should not have come." And I was like, yeah, girl, tell him. Make him grovel. Ooh. And like, I'm going to be honest, I don't think he did enough groveling. But I love that she doesn't feel the need to be respectable and demure around him. Like, he hurt her feelings. And she is okay telling him that and being like, I don't want to talk to you. You made me feel terrible. And then just had a fun little summer. And now you're coming back and flirting with everyone and ignoring me. And like, I don't want to talk to you.
Yeah. She says, you miss me, but you'd never court me. Like, yeah.
Call him out, Penelope. Ooh.
I love it. Yeah. The Mondrakes, who is the family, the boxer from season 1, they find out that their son has inherited the title of Lord Kent, and they have now been a part of society in the town. And like, we could talk about, and like their story is like dribbled throughout the season, and like we could I don't know, we could talk about that towards the end, I think, as a whole, just because it doesn't really affect the overarching plots.
It is another one of those like subplots that is intricate, and like there are so many storylines happening.
So many. We have Kate and Anthony are going back on their honeymoon, as they should. Eloise and Cressida are hanging out, and Eloise tells Cressida to be kinder. She's like, maybe you shouldn't be mean, and that's why you don't have friends, which is like fair. Like
a little bit of tough love for Cressida.
She's like, you're right. And I'm like, okay, this is good.
We have such high hopes for Cressida.
I know. I just like, I just hope. Like, I just hope. Colin comes to Penelope's house and apologizes to her, but I agree, he does not grovel enough. But then they decide to Colin decides to help Pen learn charm to help get a husband.
I would just like to say, Colin didn't learn it that well, because his charm is stupid.
he's very charming to Penelope,
and it's because he's not using his skills of that he learned abroad. He's just being himself.
Yeah, so like they've kind of like reconciled, but suddenly Lady Whistledown puts out a scandalous paper, essentially like calling out Colin and his like fakeness,
Yes.
and I love that. But then Colin reads it, and he's like, if I find out who Lady Whistledown is, I will never forgive her. And Eloise is just
Like, I will ruin her life. And
yeah.
Eloise, I put my predictions at the end of episode 1
Mm-hmm.
were that Eloise will try to protect Penelope's secret specifically from Colin.
Mm-hmm.
And then that Whistledown might try and do damage control for the very scathing reviews she put out. But the thing is, like, that's what she does. She puts
Mm-hmm.
out hurtful things.
Mm-hmm.
And like sometimes she's more tactful about it, but
Mm-hmm.
that's like the aura of Lady Whistledown.
Mm-hmm. Episode 2, like that's all from episode 1. So much.
So much happened.
Too much. Like I want all of it, but also I need more to make it worthwhile.
Yes.
I don't know.
I was cracking up at the start of this episode. Eloise is walking around with this like it's the muff thing that they have their hands
the summer
in.
muff.
I was like, that's ridiculous. And then I see this interview where she's like, I wanted to do a high kick, but I did it in one of my skirts. So I took out my own other leg and fell. And I was like, that is the funniest way to break something in your arm. And like, then it happened on set and they had to like document it and then figure out a fix for all the parts that they still had to film.
Yep.
So funny to me.
And I thought it was smart that they made the summer muff, and it's not just Penelope weirdly wearing it. You see random other girls in the gardens wearing it, and I was like, that's smart. Yeah. That's smart. Make it canon.
She's a Bridgerton. She made it trendy.
That's true. Episode 2, the queen still hesitant to choose a diamond. So that's that plot line, kind of like Lady Danbury's convinced to try and make Francesca the equivalent to the diamond of the season. And that's like that. The now Kent family, the previous Mondrakes, are moving into the family home and like going from like low society in London to high society, which is a huge change, as it would be for anyone. And then we get our first Colin and Penelope lesson.
This is like a repeated pattern throughout this season, and honestly throughout the series. Colin and Pen are technically alone together all the time.
All the time.
And it drives me a little bonkers because I'm like, I get you guys are friends, but like neither of you seem worried about like protecting Penelope's honor. And that's like a huge disgrace to be discovered or whatever. Or it's the threat of marriage. And like the only time anyone had a problem with it was at the end of last season when Lady Featherington bursts in with cousin Jack to them in a closed room. And Colin's like, I'm glad you're here. Smashes a necklace. But like, it happens multiple times in these 4 episodes where they are alone, doors closed, cut off from everyone else, like alone. And I was like, this is so annoying.
I think it's because the society deems Penelope not wantable. Like, and I think that's part of it. Like, I don't think they really hit it on the nose, and they might in the second half of the season, because like slowly as the season goes on, Colin gets more aware of it, and like we do start to see like episode 3 and 4, we do start seeing like Penelope's like maid being like weirded out about it. So like, yeah, you know what I mean. So like it is weird through the first 2 seasons, but it like slowly becomes a thing. Yeah, and then Penelope, after this like brief lesson, which is not a lesson, goes and anxiously fans herself and talking too much to the men, and they're like, you good, girl? And she's like,
weather we're having.
Yeah.
I put in my notes, I said, I can imagine nothing worse than having to show my lack of flirting skills. Like being put on display. Oh, disgusting.
I loved it that I saw an interview with Nicola, and she was like, one of the hardest things I had to do this, everyone's like asking like, was the like intimate scenes tough? And she's like, no, the tough part was like pretending not to know how to flirt or pretending not to know how to kiss. And I was like, yeah, girl, we love that.
Girl. She don't need no help. Nicola is a queen. She got it covered. She's fine.
Yeah. We have Portia checking in and seeing if the Featherington sisters have been familiar with their husbands. So Philippa and her husband, Philippa keeps talking about how they're very like intimate, and then Prudence is like, we've done it once on our wedding night and I didn't like it because I messed up my hair.
That cracks me up because you know what, girl, valid, but it also like you have a lady's maid who fixes your hair. You're fine.
Yeah. And then it cuts to Colin having a threesome.
Why was that? Oh, again, this was him trying to be Anthony, but it just came off as disingenuous and weird.
Yeah. First off, sex work is work, and we support sex workers safely doing so. Absolutely. But Anthony did not choose to pay folks for sex. He went out and had relationships, you know what I mean? Whereas Colin is not emotionally going out there. He is saying, I can feel this need. I can feel this characteristic of what I'm supposed to be doing with this without putting my emotions in it. Right. So I think them making it's just him playing the part. Right.
No, I agree. And I think that makes sense. He's doing the act so he can feel like the playboy he wants to be. But he is not emotionally tied to any of this.
Yeah, whereas Anthony absolutely was, right?
Oh, yeah.
So I think that's like the difference. It's still odd, but you know, they also needed to make this show with so many plot lines and not so many, like, they needed more scandalous, sexy scenes when, you know what I mean? So like, I like, that's, I think, also the purpose of that. Pen calls herself a lost cause, and Colin is like, you're charming, dude. And I think this is when we get the how they first met story. And he's and it's like, there's the part where he's like, and I know why you are so charming. And she's like, oh no, you knew I was in love with you then. And he's like, we're children. And we're just like, Colin, you missed the point. She loves you.
Right over
her head. Yeah. She like tells him how, it's a line from the book too. It's like, she's like, your eyes are like an unmistakable shade of blue, and they're even like brighter when you're kind, or something like that. And he's just like, draw drop. And
he's like, well, that's coming on a little strong for a stranger. So funny. I really liked also in that scene that they kept the line, because she thinks it in the book, she doesn't say it out loud, but the line about, I know that I'm smart, I know that I'm funny, it just sometimes gets lost between like my heart and my head, like, or my brain and my mouth, like I can't always articulate, but I know these things about myself, and I love these things about myself. I love that they kept that line, because we all know that she's funny and witty and sometimes really snarky. Those are like great characteristics about her, and that just gets lost in translation when she is trying to force herself into these situations.
Yes, absolutely. And then Eloise comes home, and so they have to like hide Penelope, because now Colin is, and this is because of their Penelope and Eloise's drama, but also it's like they shouldn't be in a room alone together.
Yes.
Right. And so they hide Penelope in the office. Penelope finds his journals, and I like that they keep this part from the book. Like, they have added the new stuff, that like teaching her how to flirt is new, but the like, this whole scene is essentially from the book, and I like that they kept that as like a start of this like spark between them, right?
Yeah.
Though I will say Colin's writing is way more scandalous than it is in the book.
I put in all caps in my notes, I said, she did not read him talking about his sleeping habits abroad.
No.
What is this? Like, I was scandalous. I was like, no, he's supposed to be poetic and beautiful and just talking about his travels. Genuinely, his travels.
Yeah, but they do have the part about him like not being like feeling lonely and missing home and missing something. So at least like it's him becoming worldly, but also realizing that that's not for him, right?
He is needy and longing,
and he needs
the
before
his season arrives.
Yes. And then he rushes in, they break the little lamp, the glass in the hand bit. She like rushes to save him. They like are touching hands, and it's like a slow-mo look at each other.
He dead ass has a come to Jesus moment about his best friend in that scenario.
Yeah. And then Penelope is like, can I read more of this? Like, it's really good. And I'm like, Penelope, you want some smut, girl? Because that's what you got there. Nothing wrong with smut. This is the whole series of smut, you know what I mean? But like, also,
we got you covered, girl. We got some recommendations.
Yeah. And then Colin's like, if you flirt with a gentleman at the next ball, this is weird. This isn't weird.
No, it's the fact that he like sends her off to flirt with somebody, and then she just says like, life's too short. She genuinely, like, it was not a direct hit at this man, but that poor man just starts crying. She's like, oh, okay. And I can't imagine the first time you like casually go to start flirting with someone and you make them cry.
Yeah, about their dead horse.
About their dead horse.
And then her and Colin have like cute little, like, they make fun of the dead horse, which I'm like, not great, but also it's like cute to see them as friends. Like there is chemistry there. There is like history there. And I like that they show that very shortly, you know.
Yeah.
It's not over the head.
It also brings us to the funniest scene that we have had in all 3 seasons of Bridgerton. And that is the Featheringtons being explained when a man inserts himself where? Her delivery is so good.
So good.
And I genuinely, that was probably, in all 3 seasons, that's probably my favorite scene that has ever happened.
It's so funny.
It's hilarious. And then, because I was like, oh, we frequented 3 places of business this morning. And her mom's like scandalized because she had been asking about, like, have you been sleeping with your husbands? And they were sleeping with them platonically.
Yeah.
They weren't doing much else.
Yeah.
Hilarious.
It's so funny. And but like it also is with like it stays on par with season 1, where Daphne also doesn't know anything about sex because this world does not teach women about sex. Like not that our world does much better with sex ed, but like I think at least it's not like out of left field. Like it's like, oh no, this would happen, but it's just the actresses are so good.
Incredible. Absolutely incredible. Their delivery on point.
And I'm a little bit sad because I think at the end of the season we're not going to get much more Featheringtons.
I know. I think it's going to be moving on to the next
which
Bridgertons, which is just
which makes sense because like already the expanded cast is too big, and like we've already talked about, there's too many storylines. But it's like, but now I'm like, oh, I hope they have like good, the rest of the season we get some good bits from them so that they, you know, have a good send off. Eloise tells Cressida about Colin helping Penelope find a husband, and like everyone's like, I remember just being like, oh, Eloise, bitch, Cressida's gonna tell everyone, you know. But then Cressida doesn't, and you're like,
Cressida,
and then
I was like, so proud of her.
The character growth,
oh
I'm like,
God.
I care about her now, which is awful because in the books she's horrendous. Like
I like that they are making her different from the books because she's awful in the books. She just remains a bully her entire life. She is unkind and cruel.
But unfortunately Eloise is loud and boisterous, and so another girl hears the rumor and tells everyone. Penelope, she does talk to that one lord who uses a wheelchair, and it's like a cute conversation because I thought it was interesting. Like she's successfully able to have a full conversation and be flirty because he's talking about Lady Whistledown. So he's talking about
peaks the second he's like, oh, I do wait for Lady Whistledown. She's like, oh, really?
She wants someone to tell her that she's, like everyone does at some point, you know, that she is like smart, beautiful, etc. And like people talking about Lady Whistledown is her way of getting that like affirmation from people. Right. And I like that.
As she's talking to that lord is when we get the cover of Jealous by Nick Jonas. Which I was like, he's like casually jealous too. Like he's looking over and she's having easy conversation with someone. She's not making them cry this time. And they're like actively engaging with her. They look like they're enjoying the conversation. And that bothers him a little bit. And I like that you can like kind of see the little twinge of jealousy. I do wish they had placed it in episode 4 instead of episode 2, but that's just musically where I would have liked it. So it's fine. Everything's fine. We already had a banger coming in episode 4. We didn't.
The music is so good. So good. The queen finds Francesca playing the piano and is enthralled, and Francesca is as her sparkler. Like, so that plot line is wrapped up / keep going kind of. So everyone starts gossiping at the ball about Colin helping Penelope. And so again, Penelope runs out.
So this is 2 for 2. We have Penelope leaving crying in a carriage.
Yep. Yep. And every time she's in a carriage, because I knew the carriage scene was coming, I was like, is this it? And I was like, nope, not it. Is this it? Like, there are so many carriage scenes.
No, I looked at the episode, the song list with the episodes.
Mm-hmm.
They like listed out what episode they were going to be, and I knew which song was supposed to be the carriage song. So I was like, episode 4, noted, got it. But apparently, this. I'm going to say this now so I don't forget. The scene that they did in episode 4 is apparently not the scene where they didn't hear the director call cut. So I'm intrigued.
Yeah,
we're getting more carriage scenes.
Yeah, Eloise yells at Cressida about spreading the rumor. Cressida is like, it wasn't me. And also, for someone who talks about being a good friend, you're not being a good friend. And I'm like, hell yeah. Portia sucks and like is not good at having a heart to heart with Penelope.
In that scene though, Pen looks angelic. Like, she looks ethereal sitting in that window. She was gorgeous in that scene. And it's just her like being sad. It was so sad.
She's so sad and so beautiful. A night or so later, Colin visits her in her garden, and Penelope and he pays the maid to leave them alone. And Lady Whistledown writes about Penelope's scandal, and Colin's like checking in on her, and Penelope says it would be suspicious if she didn't write about it, like she does in the book. And we're like, Colin, you know what that means? Colin, hello, anyone in there? Nope. Okay. And then Penelope, this is like almost like, I like that they put it here instead of what would have been at his house, like in the book. And then she's like, would you kiss me? And has that whole freak out almost word for word from the book.
I just rewatched this scene. She is not making eye contact with him the entire time she is requesting this until she gets to the end and she says, please. Yeah. And at that point, man's overboard. What's he gonna do? Say no? Absolutely not.
Yeah. And I really like the spiral of it all, and him being like, you'd be already dead. Like, he's like, which is like, I like that they kept that line, because he's just like logically like, but you'd already be dead. Yeah. Not the point. Sorry, my bad. Yeah. And like the kiss is so good. It's like a peck, and then they like both like are really into it, and then she does the thank you and then rushes away, and I was like, yes, I love this. And I love that they put the like little bit of jealousy that he had earlier at the ball, then the kiss before anyone else is interested in Penelope, right? So it's like his affection for Penelope isn't directly tied to other people's interest in Penelope. I like that, and I was afraid they were going to do that. Yes. So it was good. And that's in episode 2.
And then we start with the best opening so far this season. And everyone losing their minds, realizing it is not Penelope's dream sequence. It's Colin.
It's Colin. Colin is having an obsessed dream of them making out. And then I love that he goes to his family, and they're like, how do you sleep? He goes, I dreamt of nothing. My head hit the pillow. I fell asleep. No dreams. And they're like, Benedict's like, okay, dude. Like,
he was like, that was a weird answer. Why would you say that? It was also the way the dream ended. It's literally him waking up to her saying his name over and over. And I was cracking up at that, because I was like, he just like needs this affirmation of like want, and it being him, not a Bridgerton, like him. And I'm kind of obsessed with it.
Yeah. And I think this is the switch where once we get this dream sequence, this is the switch where I'm like, okay, I like Colin now. Like, first 2, like the version of him in episode 1 and 2, bleh. But like now I'm like, yes, definitely. Eloise tells Penelope it's her fault the rumor got out. They still like aren't vibing. Colin and Penelope talk and plan to keep their distance so that the rumors can go away. We find out that Lord Doubling's a vegan.
Love that for him. That must have been really difficult in their time period.
Yeah, especially in England. Vegetables. In England. Oh boy, just a lot of carrots and cabbage, which like coleslaw essentially. We find out that Cressida needs to find a husband this season, or her parents will choose one. So it's because this is her 3rd season, like Penelope, and she needs to find one, and she wants the choice. So we're getting more insight on Cressida, her issues at home, and choice becomes a big thing for her, as it should. Like, not everyone wants an arranged marriage, right? the random dudes start to tease Penelope at the ball. They're so mean. They're like, how's the husband hunting? Like, just like so gross.
Yeah, they're dude bros. They've never evolved.
The same 3 dude bros that are gross later on as well. But then this is where we have Doubling and Penelope kind of like bantering, and then we see more Colin be jealous, right? But he's keeping his space. Then we have the hot air balloons. This was a fun idea.
Love the idea.
Yes. Weird, but I liked it. Like, yes. It fits because like in that time period there would be events like this. So, like, this is like one of the things that is historically correct in this world of nothing being historically correct. You know what I mean? Yeah. So I was like, okay, cool. But also it's gonna be fun and colorful. Like, like a fair, right?
So when they're at this balloon thing and like Cressida's enlisted Eloise's help in like making her seem presentable to Lord Doubling because she has chosen him for what she needs, which is just security. I actually like think they have potential.
Yes.
And they can bond over the fact that they have terrible families. Like they don't have a good relationship with their family. And when like her face softened for him when she was like, you don't get along with your family. And I was like, oh crap. Okay. I mean, obviously I knew Penelope wasn't going to end up with him, but now I'm kind of rooting for you guys. All right.
Yeah. Like, and it makes sense because she doesn't want, she wants security. He wants a wife for like convenient wife duties, but also he's going to be gone for 3 years at a time.
And which means she can still have girlfriends over.
Exactly. And that's how I think I'm predicting that towards the end of the season, if they're gonna go with the Eloise and Cressida route, I think Eloise is gonna struggle with this idea, and Cressida is gonna be like, I want to get married so I can leave my home, have my own money, have my own time, and you can come over for that time. You know what I mean? Like, and I think it's gonna be that battle, and that's a very it's like a trope in any sort of like queer historical romances, and so but it's a good trope, and it's rooted in some historical accuracies, you know what I mean, like a la Emily Dickinson, right? Whereas like she's married but she also has this lady that's always over, you know what I mean? So like I hope that's where they go with it. But
they were very good friends.
Yes, they were roommates. And they were roommates. I love that Penelope gets Colin to go like pretend to peruse the candies. And like her like swabby secret agentness here, it's like we don't see it unless she's Lady Whistledown. And like we see it here, and it's not for Lady Whistledown reasons, but I think the walls between her and Lady Whistledown are like starting to crumble as she's becoming more confident, as she knows that she is wanted by some people, you know what I mean? Like, and I like that. But Colin is still just like oblivious, like, I follow you, okay, pretty lady.
He's too busy daydreaming after watching her like icing off her finger.
Yeah, which is like the Eclair scene almost, like in the book, right? Which I love that they included it. Yeah, I love him just being like obsessed. And then we have Benedict's little sideline. So Benedict stumbles his way into like a science talk and accidentally calls a lady a man almost, because he didn't look at her, and just like all the men were in this, because only men can like science, Benedict apparently.
Only men.
But then this like hot like older lady is like, I can like science, and then she kind of like yells at the men for like not wanting to like the improvement of humankind, and Benedict's like, uh-oh, that was nice.
Benedict's like, I think you would be mean to me and I think I would like it.
Yeah, he's like, I want you to step on me. That's like Benedict's vibe. Yes. And like I like that for Benedict. There's 2 different things going on online with the Bridgerton series. People have said that Julie Quinn had made sure that all of them are going to end up with the partners that they do in the books. But also I've seen people's videos saying that is a lie. That was not been written down.
I saw her reply to someone saying that has not been, that's not something she asked for, and that's not something that's been guaranteed. Also see a theory.
Yes.
That so Sophie and Benedict is supposed to be like a Cinderella retelling. And I saw this theory that the woman that he meets is actually like the evil stepmother.
Yes. I also saw that theory. And like their names don't match up to like what Sophie's name is, but if it's a stepmom, it doesn't matter. Like there's gonna be a difference there. Because in Sophie's story, I'm pretty sure she is like what, like she's not just a stepchild, but I'm pretty sure she's like a bastard. So I think her name is like different, so like there could be that. But yeah, so we have the so this Bridgertons aren't necessarily going to end up with who they're supposed to end up with, which I like, because some of those stories I don't like at all. But also they've talked about trying to make more queer stories in there. And the options are Eloise and Benedict are the two ones that I think could be sort of. And so like I'm interested to see. I would love if this lady ends up being the stepmom, because that's fun.
But then it makes you wonder the theory that there's going to be like a polyamorous couple.
Yeah.
Like, well, I guess it wouldn't be polyamorous at that point. It would be two women dating the same man.
Yeah.
But who knows? Who knows?
The options are there. It just depends if the Netflix executives will let them go for it.
Yeah.
Because you know how that goes. Prudence and her husband try to sneak off to canoodle, and they end up kicking a rope, which ends up spending the hot air balloon to almost fly away and run over Penelope. But who saves her? Colin, and also the other men. I love that. And okay, so his vest, we didn't really talk about costumes yet, really. I saw this really cool TikTok of someone talking about Colin's outfits, because when Colin has come back, he has the brown outfits, and the brown, I think he wears this brown, which is not like the normal Bridgerton black that they wear the men. Brown is like his mask of this like persona that he's been put on, right? He wears brown for the most parts, overcoats over like as a shield almost, like with his coats the first two episodes. And then in this episode, his vest has blue like streaks coming through it, and blue is the Bridgerton color. And so it's like him reaching through the mask, and I really enjoy that theory. I don't know how much it actually works, but I loved it.
I saw another one. It was talking about just how his costumes have evolved. So like him having different styling than his brothers is because he just came back from doing all this world travel. So he talks about, like coming back from Paris. Penelope, when she first does her makeover in the first episode, is like maybe like something like they're wearing in Paris. But that leaves him with like these open collars, and like he looked like a hot pirate when he was saving her from that hot air balloon.
Which
he looks like a pirate, and it was
beautiful. We need more hot pirates.
Yeah, agreed. Can we get a Bridgerton-esque pirate series?
Yeah.
I know there are a bunch of great pirate shows already, but what's one more? No
harm, no foul. But he saves Penelope, but also Doubling also kind of saves her by trying to like
shield her with his body.
Yeah, with his body, which I was like, okay, Penelope, two men fighting over you.
Right.
Love it. I mean, barely fighting, but still,
I also was cracking up because right after that, Cressida's like mad that he went to save Penelope, and Eloise is like, "Oh, thank goodness we weren't injured." And Cressida's like, "Maybe I was," and then starts faking an ankle injury. And I was like, you know what? Girlie knows how. She knows how the ton works. She knows how gentlemen work. She knows how they like honor whatever, and she's like playing the system, and she's good at it.
Yeah. We have another ball. This one has a bunch of Easter eggs for Queen Charlotte, the show. So like the decor is all like round spacey globe things, which are like mimicking the Queen Charlotte episodes, which I like to see. Like I liked that the Easter eggs for Queen Charlotte were not plot spoilers, they were just vibes, and I liked that. But with the kind of throwback or like callback to Queen Charlotte, we also have Violet Bridgerton meeting a mysterious man who ends up being Lady Danbury's like scandalous brother.
Incredible.
And I love this. I love
her. That Danbury has scandal. Yeah. Like she's like, listen, screw all of you. I do what I want. My husband died. I did what I was supposed to, and now I live my life. And then her brother shows up, and I'm like, he bothers you. And that's so funny to me because you don't get bothered.
Yep. And that's like the power of little brothers. As someone who has a little brother, I love him dearly, but also, man, oh man, just that boy
they can
push
be
my
the best
buttons.
and the worst.
Yes. Benedict finds the hot lady Tilly Arnold and dances with her. The Mondricks are trying to figure out the balance of being in society because he wants to keep his bar open, but all the members of society are being like, dude, you can't. People in society do not
I'm
work.
gonna be mad if Will gets rid of his bar. Because like it's a part of him, and it's something he got to do on his own with money he earned. No one in the town knows what that's like. And like it irks me that they're and that his wife is feeling pressured as well, that he needs to close the bar.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Because they've always been like a very solid couple. So if I have any issues, come up with them. Will not emotionally handle that. It's fine.
I don't know. I have mixed feelings about this plot for the Mondricks. At the ball, Penelope tells Doubling her true opinions about grass and outdoors, and he's like, good. I don't want someone just like me. Like, have your own life. I need a wife who's gonna like have her own thing because I'm gonna be gone. And she's like, oh, that's fair. Cool. And like they have a cute little like flirty moment and they dance together, and Colin is just fuming jealous at this point. He's just like
beside himself.
How dare. That's about the end of episode 3. Yeah, and then we get to episode 4, the most important episode according to the internet and kind of to me.
I would second that. Yes.
Yeah. We start Doubling's calling on Penelope.
I have so many notes for this episode. I have so many.
I love it.
Ugh.
I love it. So Devlin comes to call on Penelope, and Portia calls her sisters over to like see that, and I'm like, it's like almost a spectacle, but like almost pride.
But I loved. So she calls them over and like said, "Oh, Miss Lord Devling, like my other daughters just happened to come by and wanted to say hello, blah, blah, blah." And like, he is like casually polite to them, as you should be, but like actually turns to Penelope and like asks her questions and wants to get to know her. Cause like Lady Featherington says something about like Penelope spent so much time in that bay window. And it's like her reminding Penelope a little bit of like her status and that like she's a wallflower. Nobody wants her, blah, blah, blah. And he's just like, "Oh, do you like that window?" And she's like, "Not particularly." I did not catch until later on in the episode, the view. She says, "Oh, I mostly enjoy it for the view. And I've grown rather tired of it." So like Lord Doubling, I did not piece that together until later.
Yep.
Yeah. But I appreciated that he, even though this would have been like just an arrangement and like maybe they would have fallen in love at some point, like he wanted to actually like ask her questions and get to know her and treat her with kindness. Like that continues even after he's found out about Lady Whistledown, even after like they had a heart-to-heart at the ball because she, you know, panicked and word vomited and said she liked grass. Okay. Like
he brings her grass.
He treats her with kindness. And I just appreciate that about him.
No faults with Doubling. And I love that.
We love Doubling.
Benedict calls on Lady Arnold and they fuck. And I'm like, good for you, Benedict. Like, it is what it is, right?
Yeah. We get the introduction for Francesca and John.
Yes. John, did the meeting in the street, is that in episode 3? Did we skip that by accident?
No, I think it's also in this episode because she didn't know his name before.
Oh, yes, you're right.
They meet at the ball silently, like they don't.
Yes.
And then it's just dead quiet. And then she has not met does not know his name to meet him.
Yeah. So John Sterling comes over to call on Francesca and they sit in happy silence.
It's the most chaotic, neurodivergent flirting I've ever seen in my life. And it's so perfect. So perfect.
Yes. And then as soon as the like suitor the queen wants to Francesca to marry comes in, John's like, "Okay, have a good day, bye." Like respectfully, but also weirdly. And I love that. And Violet's this whole time is like, what's going on? And so
she's so confused until later in the episode, and you see it click in her little brain.
I love throughout the whole first 3 episodes, Violet is like purposely trying to take a step back because she thinks last season she pushed Eloise to find outlets outside the town, right? She takes that blame, which is like partially her fault, but honestly, I think Eloise would have done that either way because that's her nature, you know? But the like panic and overprotection that Violet has for Francesca, that is also like she tries to keep calm. I think it also hints at Francesca being neurodivergent because Francesca has been sent away for school and loves living in Bath, a quieter, smaller town outside of London, right? And I think that's because like Violet knew Francesca wouldn't thrive in the where her rest of her children do. And I think it's like Violet is such a good mom in this way that she like this is what Francesca needs, and I need to make sure that she doesn't just make like a on paper decision because Violet believes everyone deserves true love, which I love.
I made a note later in the episode when she's talking to Colin as well. She knows her children so well, even though she had 7 of them, like they are so individualized to her. They are so their own people, and she knows all of these small, tiny things about them, and it loves them so immensely that she cares for them in these like big ways and small ways, like sending Francesca to a school that better suits her in a small, quiet town.
Yeah. And I love that we see that. And the actress does that parenting acting so well throughout this. And like, it's so good. And we love Francesca. We love John Sterling.
I love them.
There's a fancy like event at a library/museum, which fun.
Portia drove me nuts in this episode, in this portion of the episode, because she's like, it starts with, you can't be reading, you need to be focused on Lord Devlin. And Penelope's like, we are in a library, mother.
Yeah.
And like, she's reading a book on where he's going to be traveling so she can have something to say to him. And then Portia being like, no, you have to let men explain it to you. Otherwise, they feel superfluous and unmanned. And I put in all caps, I said, I hope men do feel superfluous and unmanned. I don't need him to explain shit. Like, Penelope is smart. And that still, even though there are men interested in her, her mom is still downplaying that, still downplaying the strengths of her children. And this coming like directly after this scene with Violet, like just it contrasts the different mothering so heavily.
Yep. And I really like that we get the inside, like see the workings of these two different moms.
Yeah.
And honestly, we get a little bit of Cressida's mom too. But you know, I enjoy that.
Turns out Portia's not necessarily the worst.
Yeah, which is wild. We wouldn't have said that before.
Right.
Devlin talks to Penelope about like potentially if I were to ask someone to marry,
if a fictional man were asking a fictional woman how to get married, how would he do that? And she says, oh, ask her mother for her hand. And then he said, and would she say yes? And she glances at Colin before saying, you'd have to read the book. And like, loved this interaction and loved that they still emphasize that for her, it felt like settling a little bit. And she knew what she was settling for and she could be happy with that, but it was still settling.
And I love that she's suave in this conversation and flirtatious because again, she knows she's comfortable with Devlin because she knows like the agreement there.
Yeah. Well, and I think it's also her, because this isn't the first time it's happened. It is when other people are just treating her with kindness and like an actual human being. Not noticing her because she changed her dress or her hair, not talking to her just because another man was. Like people who are just kind when they are speaking to her, she has no problem flirting with them. She has no problem having easy conversations with them. But those are people who are treating her like a person.
Yep.
And that's like the big emphasis.
Cut to Colin almost having another threesome, but then decides that his heart's not into it. And it's just like, boy,
he's so dumb in a nice way, but like he's so dumb.
Oh yeah.
So after that, we cut to Francesca and her mom walking down the street, and she sees John, and she goes, and she's not trying to flirt, but she is like so painfully excited to see John. And again, autistically coded. Like she is so excited to see him and like just trying to talk to him, and then feels like the rejection sensitivity when they're talking about the music they can hear, and she says, oh, I actually don't like it because the beat is wrong. It needs to be this. And he, like, you immediately see little gears working in this man's brain, but he's like, thank you, that's helpful, and just leaves. And you just see her face fall, and I was like, my poor baby, no. And Violet is still in the background going, I don't understand what's happening. What is, because of what she's seen is that they sat silently on a couch next to each other, and that's it. She's like, why are we talking to this man? What is going on? I loved that scene. I love Francesca. I love her a lot.
And it fits. I know you haven't read her book, but it fits the bits we know about John Sterling. So like in the book, Francesca talks about how her and John's relationship was not like ridiculously passionate and like love at first sight like her mom's and her siblings. Is that when she met John, she was the first time where she felt at home and the most like herself and supported to be herself, but like in a romantic way, right?
Yes.
And so that's why, and you see that here. It's like, it's not like outwardly passionate, like they're not running around a corner to try and make out, right? It's not like that. It's like, oh no, they understand each other and they want to support each other and comfort each other, but in their own way. And no one understands that but them. And I love that
for them.
Absolutely. Eloise literally calls on Cressida, and like, if they weren't leading us, the audience, to think of Cressida and Eloise as maybe becoming more than friends, then they wouldn't have had Eloise literally call on her. And she says, well, I've come to call on her.
And then her father coming in and saying, you will not be spending any more time with that Bridgerton girl. It makes me wonder because we know people are more open about how the Ton feels about Penelope. They are more open about their shit talking. No one's going to openly shit talk a Bridgerton.
Yep.
But they are going to have theories as to why a Bridgerton girl isn't married. They're going to have theories as to why she's only ever with like one specific person. Or, you know, like they probably thought that Penelope and Eloise were going to be together.
Yeah.
And they didn't care then because it was just a member of society that nobody cared about.
Yeah.
And now it's Cressida Cowper.
Yeah. Yeah. And I also noticed on my last rewatch in episode 1, Violet tells Eloise, you should hang out with girls besides Cressida. So like both parents are like, this relationship is weird, which it is.
It is.
It's weird. But also they see something else that I think that the girls don't see. And maybe that's me reading into it more, but I feel like the show is leading us that way.
I agree.
Colin has his little like boys' night at this empty bar, and the boys are like asking him about the details, and I'm like, this is gross. And he's just like, aren't y'all tired of being lonely? And they're like, no. And he's like, oh.
Just me then. All right.
Just me. Cool. Debling asks Portia permission to propose. Portia is like finally so excited for Penelope, but then sees Penelope hesitate in her like look and like gives her a lecture on security, that love is security. Yes. Which makes sense for Portia's backstory that the little we know, right? Yeah. Like her husband was a piece of shit. Right. So like, yeah, it makes sense that is her view on love, which is the stark opposite of Violet. Right. So there's a ball coming up. Violet tells Colin that he needs to put himself first. I love this conversation.
I agree. This is where I put my note about she knows her children so well and loves them so strongly.
Yeah. She's like, you've been one of my most sensitive children, which I think is true. He's the most dramatic. Besides maybe Hyacinth, but Hyacinth's a different creature unto herself.
Hyacinth is dramatic and confident in herself.
Oh, yeah.
Colin is prone to dramatics, but he absorbs energies in a room. Like if he walks into a room and everybody's pissed, he is on edge. If he walks into a room and everybody's happy, he adds to that.
Yep, absolutely. And just love her little speech to them. And I also love the way she throws in, oh, you're not going to the ball tonight? He's like, no, I'm tired. And she's like, well, rumor has it that Penelope is going to get proposed to, and I thought you'd like to support her as a friend. Like I love that every season Violet
she just
knows.
like little side eyes.
She's like, I know who my children want to be with, and like I will help them get there.
She cracks me up because Girly is collecting love matches like a gauntlet, like the Infinity Rings. She's just like, oop, 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 love matches. That's all my children know how to do.
Yep. Yeah. There's a ballet at the...
I was obsessed with this ballet.
It was beautiful.
And with the Queen's wig. Confused by both, but beautiful.
The little twirly swan. So cool.
I found a TikTok of the woman who does the wigs. I found her TikTok. I will send it to you. But she did a time lapse of her making this wig, and I'm obsessed with it.
Yeah, I don't know anything really about ballet, but I was really curious to see if that was like historically accurate ballet. Not that anything else really is historically accurate, but in my brain, I was like, how accurate is this ballet like style? And I was just curious. I did not do the research, and I probably won't, but I was just curious.
Yeah.
But I do love how like Penelope is just like gobsmacked by the ballet. She's like, that's love. I want love, you know?
Yeah. She's having a little crisis emotionally.
Yeah, because she knows that what Doubling's gonna say. And like, so Doubling and Penelope start to dance. Oh, we also see between the dancing, we see Cressida ignores the mom's wish, talks to Eloise anyway. Eloise is like, aren't I that Bridgerton girl? And Cressida's like, I don't care what they say. And I'm like,
which again, why are you saying that?
It's leading somewhere.
Also, before, I think it's like before or while Doubling and Penelope are dancing, John approaches Francesca on the dance floor, and she's just finished dancing with the guy that the Queen is trying to set her up with. He went to go get her lemonade, and John's like trying to talk to Francesca, and she's blowing him off. And I was like, "Ooh, rejection sensitivity! There it is." She's like, "You hurt my feelings, and I'm too busy to talk to you." And he's like, "I'm really sorry for rushing off the other day." And I was like, "Oh." He knows what he did, and he's acknowledging it immediately. And then he's like, I had to do this. And you don't know what it is at first when he hands it to her. But because we're going to have other scenes to talk about, we'll just talk about this now. He hand wrote the music that they had been listening to, but he made the changes Francesca said she needed for the music to sound right for her.
Yeah. Yeah.
I am obsessed with this man and the way that he loves.
And he talks about the power of a gesture, and he doesn't just like talk about it, he follows through.
Yes, he said, I know my words may not be my like greatest weapon, but I am passionate and like can prove that. And like I'm obsessed with John and Francesca. And like that moment too, she's at home, she's playing the music. Violet is still confused about like, why did we leave? Why do you keep talking to this John man? And then Francesca looks over at her and tells her what John did. And you see it click in Violet's brain, and she's like, oh yeah, another one. My child's in love.
I love them. And like, you know what happens to Francesca's story, right?
Yeah, because I text you in all caps, and I said, finding this out is actually the worst news ever.
Yeah, but I don't know how they're going to play it out, right? Because her story in the books happens after... like the rest of her story, I should say. The rest of her story happens after Benedict's, Eloise's, and Colin's.
So I'm wondering if we're going to have Eloise, then Benedict, then hers. And that means that we actually get... I like that because in the books, she's married and in Scotland. She's not in England. She's all the way up north. I love that we're actually getting this. Because when we see her in the book, things have already happened for her. Yeah, she's on the next part of her story.
Yeah. So I hope that we see the journey between where they have her now with John and where we see her in the book.
Yeah.
Like part of me, like, obviously I don't want to see that because it means certain things have happened, but also I think it's good storytelling and it would be a good TV show.
I agree.
And it'd be totally different than the other seasons have been, which I think will be good for how many Bridgerton siblings there are. Anyways, all while this is happening, Doubling and Penelope are dancing. And suddenly Colin shows up at the ball and just walks straight up.
No pretense. He just walks up and he's like, yeah. Dance with me.
Yeah. And Doubling sees like the tension between them and like is like steps back, you know, which is like shows how much he respects himself and what he wants, but also is still in a kind way, right? Like he could have done it it could have been a bigger to do.
Well, right? And then so he goes in, like Cressida approaches him and they dance together. And when they're talking, he's like, well, they're friends and they like had a falling out. So like obviously they need to talk. So that's what he's interpreting the tension as. That's what he's like the glances he's seen her throw at him. He thinks that they're friends who had a falling out. Maybe it's tied to the whistle down thing. Maybe it's something else, but they're friends. And he feels badly that her and her friend are having this issue. And like, again, he's confident in himself. He's not worried about it. Until he starts talking to Cressida. And like he's just like, oh, she needs to talk to her friend. Like, okay. Yeah. And then Cressida's like, yeah, but she like they're best old friends, and she lives across the road from them. And he's like, oh, she loves staring at that window, and she keeps looking at the view that she's grown tired of.
Yeah. And like while Colin and Penelope are dancing, Penelope's like, what are you doing? You're ruining this for me. And Colin's like, you don't love him. You don't marry him. And she's like, why are you telling me this? Like, you're not saying anything convincing besides don't do it. You're not my boss. Like, I'm going to do this. Like, I've made my peace. And like Penelope this time is chasing after Doubling, and Doubling is like, I need someone who, this part I was curious about. I think it's good reasons for him to say, Penelope, like, you are involved. I did like, not that I won't trust you when I'm gone, but I don't want there to be an open door. Right.
Yes.
And in this world where like I'm imagining Cressida ends up with him because it makes sense security wise, if she is like has a thing with Eloise, then
nobody's going to question her girlfriend coming over.
Exactly. So
because
like that's
not
the, like,
a man.
Yeah. So I'm like, it's interesting, but I also feel like if that happens, I will feel bad for Doubling because he's a great dude. You know what I mean?
It would also be interesting how that would end up playing out, though, because at that point she would be married to him.
Yeah.
So even if her and Eloise fall in love, I mean, it's not like they can get married.
I know. It's interesting. I'm interested to see what they do.
Yeah.
And who knows? Maybe they'll just be dumb and not have any of that happen because of Netflix and stuff. But when Doubling's like leads Penelope to this, like, hey, like there's feelings there, and Penelope's like, Colin would never
it's
like
literally
feel that towards me.
Joking. He doesn't feel that way.
Yeah. And then he's like, I wasn't questioning his feelings. And Penelope's like,
she was gobsmacked immediately.
Yeah. And then Portia comes up like, what have you done now? And Penelope's like, am I only used to you with an engagement ring on? You know, like,
which,
like, oh, fair.
Which is true. It's fair.
Yeah.
And then I like that she said that and then just left. Like, she didn't wait for Portia. She's like, I know what you think of me, and like, I'm out.
Yeah. Yeah. And she gets in a carriage. And she's sad, rightfully so, and mad.
Did she leave crying in a carriage in episode 3? Or are we 3 out of 4?
I think it's 3 out of 4.
3 out of 4.
4 out of 4?
It might be. We're going to have to double check that.
Yeah. We'll see. A lot of carriage crying.
It's a lot happening.
Yeah.
I had a whole thing of notes. These are my notes just on the carriage scene. These are just on the carriage scene.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing. Yeah, the carriage pulls out from the dance, and Colin chases after it. And like, but the way they film it, it makes it look like he's not going to catch the carriage. But then he does. And he jumps in, which is,
well, he asks. He says, "Can I come in?" I want to emphasize how much consent repeatedly happens in this scene.
Yes. And so he gets in the carriage, and Penelope's like, we'll go by Bridgerton house first. Like, still like just like we're gonna drop him off. Like, who cares? Right.
I'm not talking to you, you bitch.
Exactly. And the scene. I cannot.
My notes that I have, we start with Colin just gets into this carriage, and homie is, as he has been this entire season, but the most so, he is desperate and needy. He has realized he has feelings. He has realized that like this may be his only shot to like convince Penelope to give him a chance. He almost watched her get engaged to someone else. So now it's like the added, he's realized he has feelings and he could lose out on someone that he loves. Then literally on his knees for her. Oh my fucking God, the music is starting.
The music, by the way.
Eyes. The music was such a good choice. Genuinely, that song's going to be at the top of my Spotify Wrapped.
Absolutely. And it's a cover, a strings cover of Pitbull's Give Me Everything Tonight.
Incredible.
And like,
incredible choice.
It's such a good choice. And I love this just for like the zeitgeist of this song in culture, because it has been taken over by Pitch Perfect for the last 8 years. And now finally
I felt
it's over.
Like this was when I heard Pitch Perfect's cover.
Same. Oh my gosh. So look, it's so good. One of my close friends here, she has not watched this season yet because she has to finish her PhD and she's not allowed to watch Netflix until after. Shout out Marissa.
So valid.
Marissa, who did the Princess Diary episodes with me.
Yes.
And so I told her, and I was like, I'm not going to tell you any spoilers, but I will just tell you that there's a Pitbull cover. And she was like, no, there's not. And I was like, yes, there is. And it's really good.
Hairstylist, I was talking to her about Bridgerton, and I was talking to her about how she was saying she isn't a fan of the music covers. And I was like, there is one cover you should listen to from this season. They covered Give Me Everything Tonight by Pitbull. And she said, oh, okay. Sure. That one. Absolutely. And that's the thing. This song has power. Yes. It has maintained power.
Yes. Yes.
Anyone our age is obsessed with this song.
Yes. And did you see all that, like, Pitbull commenting on everyone loving this? He was like, he posted, he's like, I forget the exact words, but he is like, I'm so happy that the song got used and everyone, that you are all loving it. And then he's like, Dale. And I was like, yeah, dance. Yeah.
I love Pitbull.
Yes.
10 out of 10.
The carriage scene.
So we have reached, he is on his knees. He's telling her that he has feelings for her. She's like, Colin, that's not funny. Like, do not say stuff to me that you don't mean. Like, why would you? And so she, at this point, is like, that is so cruel. Why would you do that? And like freaked out because he is saying things that she has always wanted him to say. And then she says, we're friends. And he looks devastated. He looks absolutely crushed and immediately backs out of her space.
Yes.
He had been like on his knees in her lap. Like, he immediately was like, oh, okay. And then she says, but I want us to be so much more than friends. And that's Honey's go ahead.
Yep.
And they kiss and it's beautiful. She pulls back. I'm just going through my notes that I have. He pulls back. I didn't notice this the first time I watched. When she pulls back the first time, he is not looking at her eyes. He is staring at her lips, then glances up at her eyes. He has, this like soft, wanton look on his face. Like, he is just so obsessed at this moment. And then she runs her hand through his hair and that man looks feral.
Yep.
He got good on Luke. Good for you, buddy. Your eyes, very expressive, my guy. 10 out of 10 on the acting. Incredible. He pulls down like the shoulder, which is exposed and is, very scandalous in a place where they cover up. Homie has big hands and they still aren't big enough for the girls.
Yep. I saw the TikToks of those and I was like, I love that.
And I loved that, like, I loved that they didn't have her lose weight or appear smaller in this show. She is the size that she is, which is a UK 10, a US 14. Yeah. Like, that is the size that she is. And there is no hesitation. There is no like weirdness about her body. He is obsessed with her and her body. He is all over her. And then we get to the slow drag up the calf. And he's just very slowly trailing his fingers up, looks to her for consent once again.
Yep.
And then when he has it, leans forward and like, they had very good tension and like chemistry throughout the seasons. But like the tenderness that you feel, and I think it really is like, this is how Friends to Lovers is.
Yeah.
If you are hooking up with your friend in the back of the carriage, it's a lot. Even if it's brand new, it's something you've never done before in your life. But I think that's like, this is genuinely how it is when it's Friends to Lovers, is this level of comfortability. So even when it's new and scary, like, she is staring into this man's eyes. He is watching her face. He's watching to make sure she's feeling good. Like, she's looking at him for this trust and this security, and he is giving that to her.
Yep, they have that establishment already. Like, there's no, like, the ground, like, they've done the groundwork without knowing.
Yes. And then I put in my notes, the funniest and most realistic ending to two longtime friends hooking up is them bursting into giggles.
Yep.
Like, they both just start giggling. And also him looking at her and going, well, can't the carriage just keep driving? Hilarious. I'm so glad they kept that from the book. I thought that was, like, so perfectly timed. And, like, the way Luke delivered it was so good. And then we end the episode on a beautiful little cliffhanger where he says, for God's sake, Penelope Featherington, are you going to marry me or not? What a cliffhanger. What a cliffhanger. Because we know where this is going. We know they're going to end up together. But now we have to wait a whole month. Atrocious. It's like 2 weeks now, but 3 weeks, something like that.
Something like that. Too long still. Yes. It is such a good scene. And, like, it's because it's the first carriage scene of its type in this. So, like, it's new within the series. I'm glad they did it at the halfway point because we've seen them since season 1 have this relationship, right? Like, the payoff to the audience is good. Within the series, it's a good timing within season 3, but also within the series. And I think they did it very smart that way. And then Nicola and Luke have talked about that in the interviews. And at first I was like, I don't know if that's, you don't know what's true, what's PR, right? But I'm like, the more I watch it this season, the more I'm like, everything Nicola said is true of this season. I can trust her and, like, her takes on the season, right?
Which also she said in the second part, there is one, like, full frontal scene where she was like, it's my body and it feels, which if it's the mirror scene,
it has to
be the mirror scene.
It has to be.
And I'm going to lose my mind. Yes. I'm going to lose my mind.
Yes. I am so excited. And this scene, but, like, so far this season with Penelope has been so, like, healing for me because, like, we never see the fat friend become pretty and desirable and have a happy ending, literally and figuratively, without them changing a significant portion of who they are as a person.
Yes.
Or it being the main conflict. That is not the main conflict in this season, right?
No.
And the rest of the conflict in this season is going to be the whistle down bullshit, right? We all know that's going to be the whole thing, right?
Yes.
So, like, but, like, it's so good. And, like, I, like, thinking about it, like, if I think about it too long, it will make me cry, which is not saying much. I cry all the time. As the audience knows, I watched Cats the other night and I cried. Spoiler for a future episode of the podcast. We're doing Cats. So, like, for, like, a baseline of my crying abilities, but, like, this, I am obsessed with this season, which is, like, yes, I've watched it 3 times so far, partially so I could take notes and make sure my notes were accurate, but also because I enjoy it so much. Like, there are faults. We've talked about the Colin cringiness. It makes sense. It's still gross until it's not,
Yeah.
I think it's worth it. I think it's worth going through the cringy 2 episodes of him being a weird flirter to getting this, because this is truly who he is. It's like that TikTok where it's like, walk him like a dog, sis. Like, Penelope walks him like a dog. As she should.
Absolutely,
and I love that.
Absolutely, she does.
Yes. I love it so much. So much. There's been some really good TikToks I've seen as far as, like, critiquing the issue with the Mondrakes. I just want to shout out a few folks that want to look into it. Some TikTokers that have really good TikTok reviews. Zeke Space, Zeke Space. He has really good reviews of the series as a whole. At Freddie's Roommate, who's a creator named Justin, has some really good takes. He has a lot of film review. He has really good, like, analysis of Bridgerton's use of the Mondrakes. And then also at Princess Pendulum. So, folks, if you want to look up them, there's some TikToks I saved and I made me, like, really think about it. So, like, the Mondrakes, we kind of talked about it. In Bridgerton as a series, race is not there and also there, right? Like, Shondaland has made it purposely diverse throughout the series, purposely including themes that folks of color have to deal with in modern day as well as back then, but also without it's alternative reality, right? Like, we're not dealing with the issue of slavery that would have been a huge thing right now in England at this time point. Like, right. Absolutely. So, like, Bridgerton, you have to have like suspend a certain portion of what we know to would have been the reality, right? For this alternate reality, which is also why the fashion is bonkers.
Yeah.
Right? Like it's alternate reality.
Like the fashion stuck a lot more traditional in Daphne's season.
Yes. Yeah. Because it was the first season and they were like trying to figure out where it was, you know, it makes sense. Like what's gonna work with this Netflix? And then they were like, everyone loves it. Let's just go bonkers, which I love.
Yeah.
So in general, Shonda Rhimes has had a lot of critiques in other shows too of portraying interracial relationships, which is amazing. But a lot of folks have, especially people of color, really like criticized her for not having Black relationships. And Bridgerton falls under that category, right? Because in Queen Charlotte, we have a Black relationship. It's awful, right? The Danbury relationship. So that's one example that is not healthy, serves the plot, right? But it's not a healthy example. Then we have the Mondrakes, right? Who so far we love them, like you said earlier. We love the two together. The chemistry is wonderful. They're great characters. The whole boxing plot lines from earlier in the series is so good. But here we have them in this series and like them coming into society because of their son's inheritance is interesting. And it's a slight critique of class, right? Which is cool and good to have that in there.
Yeah.
But at the same time, like them being the only Black couple and they don't have like much this is like this show's about dating and love.
Yeah.
Right. And we don't have a Black couple who is in the like the one of the tension and the plot is the dating relationship love. Like it like their story is good and interesting. And I'm glad, obviously, we're happy to have that story here and still have them because they are good characters.
Yes.
But like so that is one big critique of this season that I think is like very important to keep in mind, right? Especially since the Bridgertons are all white. You know, so every season is going to be interracial, if not just white couples.
So we had talked in the last episode we did about the book about Reggae John Page not coming back. And I saw a TikTok and I've been looking more into it because I did not know this. Yeah. Allegedly, it was due to racism he experienced from fans of Bridgerton that made him be like, yeah, I'm out. I'm Gucci. Thanks. And there was something he shared to his stories. This was a couple years ago, but it would have been like right around the time after Bridgerton is airing. He shared a post from another production that had said, "We, the cast of Rings of Power, stand together in absolute solidarity and against the relentless racism, threats, harassment, and abuse some of our castmates of color are being subjected to on a daily basis. We refuse to ignore it or tolerate it." And he had shared it on his stories and said, "Good, industry take note. More of this, please. It's about time. It's not hard. I can't believe we went through an entire era where productions were happy to stand by, tell us it was our own problem, and refuse to stand up to racist abuse because it was coming from fans," which is in quotes. Wild. And so it's so interesting because I do think there are critiques to be made about the show. And it's listening to people who are inherently more educated and more nuanced about this and learning from that.
Absolutely.
But it's just like one of those things. I had no idea that was potentially one of the reasons he didn't come back.
Yeah, I think it's a combo. Like, I think he did want to, like, you know, he did the D&D movie, which honestly, if you're not saying, it's a fantastic movie and he's wonderful in it. It's so good, dude. Like, you don't have to know anything about Dungeons and Dragons. It's legit a great movie. Yeah. It's on Prime. I love it. But so like, and he's like also, I think, going to be James Bond was like a rumor. I'm not sure if that was confirmed or not. I don't know. Don't take my word for that, but I thought I saw that. But I'm pretty if you think about it, like a lot of the characters and the people of color in the show, especially the Black men, have just been super sexualized. Yes. You know, and especially him. And I think that's where a big issue is. And a lot of people are critiquing Shondaland and the show for that. And I think it's a very valid critique. And so I just hope, like, they've obviously made some good positive changes. Like for example, John here, right? He is he is a romantic interest of Francesca, but he's not sexualized. And that's partially because of the character, but also because like you can have a romantic storyline without it just being totally sexualized, which is like different from what the show kind of has focused on in general, because it's a sexy show. Like that's the whole brand of it. It's sexy historical fiction, which like we love. But you know, I think I think they are making better steps towards the nuance of it all, except for I'm worried with what they're going to do with the mandrakes. I'm worried about that. And like, I think it's a cool story, but I don't know if it fits. And it's like, you know what I mean? Like, we have these characters and I want them in the story because we like them. I want them to be successful. I want them to be happy. But like, this show is about dating and romance.
Yeah.
You know? So that's my like one thing about the show that I'm like, so far, I'm like, what's going to happen? But besides it, I loved the season so far. What do you think is going to happen the rest of the season? Like, what are
we're going to get the mirror
predictions?
scene. There's going to be another carriage scene. I don't know how it's going to happen. So the little like teaser that they put out, Eloise gives Penelope an ultimatum. She's like, you have until midnight to tell him or I will. Because in the book, Colin knows that she's Lady Whistledown before they get engaged. That's one of the reasons they get engaged. Is he's like, I can protect you this way, which I am so glad they took that out. I'm so glad, because it's a decision. His decisions are being made based on his actual feelings, not based on being the protector, not based on the stuff that made him ugly in the books.
Yes.
Which I love. I think we are going to see him be upset. But I'm thinking it's not going to be like it was in the books. I think he's going to like emotionally regulate better.
Yeah.
Anthony and Kate are either going to come back or he's going to go to Violet.
Yeah.
I feel like it's right now more likely he would go to Violet and just be like, Mom, I don't know what to do. Like, I'm in love and this. The way I think it would be really funny is like Penelope obviously couldn't be, or could be maybe Lady Featherington. I don't know, whatever. I just think both of her sisters might get pregnant, but they'll have girls first. And then she'll have like the first boy. And I just think that would be hilarious. That would be further down the line. But yeah, I don't know. I predict her and Eloise mending their relationship. And maybe it's not where it was before. I do think, especially if we're going to have some kind of queer storyline building, that Eloise is going to withhold that. Yeah. And so like, that's going to be, you know, because well, I can't tell Lady Whistledown. I think that would be kind of like a turning point of her learning she can trust Penelope again. Yeah. Yeah. I agree. I think those are my predictions. I think those are really good predictions. I predict and I hope we get Violet flirting with Danbury's brother. Please. I want that for her. To be fun. I kind of think that Francesca and John are going to get married before the very end of the season and like go off to Scotland. I think that's going to happen pretty fast. I'm not sure if their wedding will come before or after Colin and Penelope's. But I definitely think Colin's not going to find out about her being Lady Whistledown until after they're like midway through the engagement minimum, if not already married. I'm so excited. It's going to be so great. Yes. And that's it for this episode. We'll return to talk about part 2 sometime in June after it's out. If you are interested, you can go follow Jenn at Lit with Jenn because she makes cool Bookstagram stuff. It's very fun. Make sure you're rating us and leaving a review. If you listen to us on Apple Podcasts, please leave us reviews. You can also leave reviews or DM me on Instagram and I'll share them with friends and share the podcast with friends. Please, it'd be wonderful. Thanks for listening. And don't forget, read the book first.